Folks, if you don't use it, somebody else will. I'll get into that and then the latest home prices and insights for condos across the GTA for week ending June the 12th, 2024. Client phones me and says, Santo, I'm thinking of selling my condo. He wasn't quite sure. And a bit of the background story. This gentleman has moved out of his condo about 2 years ago. From time to time, he's thought about selling, never really did, never rented it out because he thought, maybe I'll sell, maybe I'll move back, but he never did. He ended up buying something else 2 years ago, moved out, and has never moved back in. So the time is now, is once again thinking of selling it. I meet him at the condo. We're looking at the condo. We're walking through the building. He's showing me the amenities. We go into the parking lot to show me the parking spot. And right away, it's like, hey, somebody's in my spot. I wouldn't have known. I would have thought that that's his car. It turns out my client doesn't have a car. He doesn't own a car. When he bought the unit, it came with a parking spot. He's never really used it, but somebody else has. So at some point, somebody started using the parking spot. So we go to management and we say, hey, somebody's in this parking spot. It's not their parking spot. Can you get the car out? Tow it out, whatever you got to do, get this car out of there. Management, first of all, says, no, hold on. We got a bit of a process. They first need to verify that, which is logical. They got to verify that my client's not making a mistake, that there's a different parking spot that belongs to my client. So they're looking at all the paperwork. They're looking at all sorts of different things to verify that that parking spot belongs to my client's unit. And in fact, it did. So we verified that that's the actual spot. And yes, there's a car that doesn't belong to my client in that spot. So my client now, with the revelation that they finally confirmed that it's the right spot, my client's like, okay, now you know it's my spot. Get the car out, tow it out, get it out of here. And management says, no, we can't just do that. There's other factors involved, liability. They mentioned a few other things. Maybe it's just a genuine mistake. We don't know why management says, but we have to send a notice to everybody. They went downstairs, wrote the license plate, the make and model, said we got to send a notice to everybody. We've got to give them a few days to come forward to respond. If after all that process nobody comes forward, then we're in a position to tow it away. But you got to give us a few days. My client's a bit upset, but has really no choice in this matter. Well, it turns out over the next few days, somebody did come forward and basically says that they've been using that spot for about 1.5 years. They saw that it was vacant, that nobody was using that spot, thought doesn't belong to anybody, so they started using it. And through management, asked to contact my client and basically ask, can we pay rent? Can we rent this from you? So my client says, well, sure, pay me first the 1.5 years parking at $200 a month, because that's the going rate in that building for rental spots. This is downtown Toronto. It's not inexpensive to have a parking spot rented per month. So he says, pay me about $200 a month over the last 1.5 years that you've been using it, and then we could talk about if I want to rent it to you going forward. Well, that conversation didn't get very far, and the person ended up moving their car. But you think this is a once-off situation? I recently had a situation where similar, but with a locker. My client, we're selling the property. We've listed it for sale. Just before that, we're walking through the building. He's showing me where his locker is, and hey, there's all sorts of stuff in his locker. And we had to go through the same process. Management just didn't cut the lock and take the stuff out. There was a few days process to notify everybody and have the perpetrator, will say, come forward and say, yeah, that's my stuff. In that case with the locker, nobody came forward. The stuff looked like junk. They actually put their junk in this empty locker, locked it. It's like, man. So folks, if you have a locker that you're not using, I got to say, put a lock on it. Don't just leave it wide open, because if you don't use it, somebody else will. And it blows me away the guts people have to actually do this stuff. Like, you're in a parking lot, you know these parking spots belong to somebody. Anyways, you know they don't belong to you. And yet you just go park in somebody else's parking spot and think that's okay. You might get away with it one day, 2 days, but a year and a half of using someone else's parking spot, that takes guts. You see a locker and you think, I'm just going to fill it up with my junk and put a lock on it, and that's the end of it. And then just stay quiet about the whole thing. I don't know. To me, I wouldn't have the guts to do that. And plus, I'm not saying it in a positive way. Those people are just, I don't know. I don't know the word for that. What would you do? Somebody is using your parking spot in the condo. What would you do? Or your locker, somebody's using your locker, and you're wondering, just because I didn't use it doesn't mean somebody else can use it. What would you do? Let me know in the comments below. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. And if you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, it's really simple. Up here, there's a link to my calendar. Below this video in the description, there's a link. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. So what's going on now with the condo market? For sure, tons of inventory, tons of choices. What does it mean for prices? Well, I usually, which I will be doing again in this show, I study the numbers on a weekly basis, and we can see trends a lot quicker than, say, on a monthly basis. But lots of people like to look at numbers on a monthly basis. So I put this chart together. I've got here every month, the last full month, May 24th. I'm going all the way back to the black, highlighted in black is May 2020. What's been happening with condo prices? Well, for the city of Toronto only, so I'm not talking about all GTA, just city of Toronto, condo apartments, so there's no condo townhouses in these numbers, for a month ending May 2024, 1,297 condo apartments were sold. It is lower from the previous month, but just by 12. So it's practically the same as the previous month. But before that, every month for this year anyways, sales have been increasing every month. But compared to last month, pretty much the same. Average sold price follows really the same story there. Average sold price is $767, same as the previous month. However, before that, every month, for this year anyways, average sold price has been increasing. So 767 is the average sold price for condo sold for month ending May 2024. Well, compared to where the average sold price was the previous year for 2023, we are about 2% lower. That's it, only 2%. You figure with everything everybody's talking about, we'd be so much lower. We're not. We're 2% lower from the previous year. If we look at the year before that, we are 3% lower. When you go to the year before that, 2021, we're actually higher. We're about 7% higher than where the prices were in 2021. But if you just compare for the last couple of years, we're 2% lower and 3% lower. Not a lot. Now, do we see things changing? I think we are just heading into a new cycle when it comes to condo prices, just because the level of inventory, the amount of condos sitting out there on the market, that number is really high. We'll get into that, but it is over 5,500 condos available for sale in the city of Toronto, and sales is not really continuing to grow. Let's get into that right now, actually. Here's the average sold prices for condos in Peel Region, in York Region, and the city of Toronto. If we take the low and the high average sold price, there's a $124,000 difference in average sold price. It's usually much higher, that number. We're going to start off with the city of Toronto. 211 condos were sold for week ending June the 12th. 26 of those were at $1 million or more. So we're seeing sales drop. Now, I said earlier, for May, it's pretty much what it was in April, but we're already, like the last week of May, 167, then jumped up a little bit, but coming down again. If I had to make a prediction, and as long as we stay on this pattern, when we look at all of June, it's going to be much slower than what the sales were for May. Average sold price, same thing. Average sold price for week ending June the 12th is $731,000. For most of May, we were in the high $700,000. We're starting to see average prices coming down. So when we see June average prices, I'm pretty sure it's going to be lower than the May average sold price. So prices are starting to trend down. Compared to last year, 760, sorry, let me just go back 1 second. Sorry, average sold price is 731. Compared to last year, 731 is 2% lower year over year. The median price is 7% lower. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. And even though it's not much, it is trending downward. 211 were sold, 27% sold at list price or more. That percentage is trending down. Here's where the real story actually takes place. Listings are way up. For week ending June the 12th, 1,100 new condo apartments were listed for sale. When I say new, I mean not new condos, but new listings, new condo listings. So 1 week to the next versus the previous week, that's an increase of 31% more condos, more condo listings. The detached market, that percentage was 30%. So detached, 30% increase in listings. Excuse me. Condos, 31% increase in listings. There's a ton of new properties available for sale out there. And when we look at how the active listings, 5,513 active listings. And we know, I'm going back, 211 were sold. Only 3.8% of all active listings are actually selling. 3.8%. Months of inventory, way up there at 6 months of inventory. Now, if you go back, I have 3 months on the chart here. We used to be in the 3s, which was already high because before that, we used to be in the 2s. We're now in the 3s. We've seemed to have bypassed 4 months of inventory real quick, and we're sitting at 5 or more months of inventory. The last couple of weeks, we're at 6 months of inventory. That's a buyer's market, folks. So we're buyer's market in the condo space, but that's all the city of Toronto. Let's look at Toronto broken down into different sections. Now, all Toronto is 6 months of inventory. Scarborough sitting at 4 months of inventory. Some of the areas that do more sales than others, Etobicoke, we do lots of condo sales, 6.5 months of inventory. Average price there is $703. Almost a quarter, 24% selling at list price or more. High Park, Parkdale, 21 condos were sold. Average price is $823,000. Months of inventory is 4.7. But the downtown, not the downtown core, but the real high sales, you're looking at uptown, midtown, downtown, months of inventory. Uptown 4.9, midtown 5.2, but midtown average price is $922,000. Downtown, average price $725. There are 2,129 active listings. 2,129 just in the downtown core, but only 57 were actually sold. So 57, 2,129 to choose from. 2.7 of all active listings in downtown Toronto are selling. So if you're on the market or thinking of putting your condo up for sale, you need to stand out because only 2.7% are selling. You want to be the 2.7. You don't want to be the 93% that is not selling. Let's look at York Region condos. So 36 condos were sold for weekend in June the 12th. 4 of those were at $1 million or more. Average sold price the last 3 weeks been around $700,000. And for June the 12th, it's $697,000. $697,000 is 3% lower year over year. The median price is 1% higher. Looking at the dotted line, if we go since, say, the beginning of May, before that, prices were trending up. But since May, looks like prices are trending down, but gradually, not aggressively. 36 were sold. 14% sold at list price or more. It's a very low percentage. Listings for the City of Toronto, 1 week to the next, listings increased by 31%. For York region, listings increased by 24%. Active listings is climbing. Only 4.4% of all condo listings are selling every week. Months of inventory sitting in a buyer's market at 5.3 months of inventory. Here's Peel region. Sales trending down. 32 condos were sold. One of those was at $1 million or more. Average sold price, I put a question mark there. It just seems that some of the more expensive condos were selling, and there was only 32 that sold. Average sold price is $607,000. The few weeks prior to that, average sold price seemed to be trending up. But then we dropped down to 575, 577, and they've bounced back up again to 607. So maybe this is the crazy numbers that didn't make sense that we gotta ignore. But it's only in the next few weeks that we could figure out which numbers really are a truer reflection of what the market is doing. But compared to last year, 607 is 4% lower year over year. The median price is 1% lower. 32 were sold. 22% of those sold at list price or more. Listings are way up. We went from 147. They're not way up like some of the other areas, though, I should say. 161 active listings is trending upwards. 4% of all properties or condos available for sale every week, 4% are selling. And months of inventory sitting at 5.7 months of inventory, a buyer's market. Here's a quick summary. We're pretty much in a buyer's market in every region of the GTA that sells condos. Now, many buildings, or when you're looking at condos, the building is its own market, its own universe. So some, for sure, are more favorable than others. But if we're kind of looking at areas as a whole, condo markets taking a beating as far as how many properties are available for sale, choices, and the more choices tends to bring prices down. We've not really seen that effect yet, but I think it's around the corner. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.